Hello and welcome to Podtoid. We are your hosts. I'm CJ.
I'm Chris.
I'm Dan.
I'm Charlotte.
I'm Occams.
And this is episode 429. It is great to be back with y'all over this Martin Luther King Jr. weekend, or as 3/5 of our show call it, a regular weekend. We have a very good show for you in store today, as we will be talking about some Smash Brothers news, the new Dragon Ball Z game, Trauma Center, and so much more. But before we get into any of that, Chris, I just want to make sure you didn't take a knife to the dick this week, did you?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
And in respect for my bravery over the Christmas period, I'm going to be made a prince.
Oh, it's just that easy, huh?
There's an opening. There's an opening now in the royal family, and you just had to turn up. That's all you had to do. You just had to turn up and put your name down, and they put them all in a hat. And I'm going to be the new prince.
Well, congratulations!
I can't fucking wait
for the British press to tear you apart.
Yeah, to ruin me and my family, and then when I get angry and decide to leave, to make out that instead of leaving, you can't find me. I quit. Instead of making out that I'm left, to make out that I was banished.
Chris, you'll be fine. Like, you don't have a spouse. Well, one, you don't have a spouse, and two, your spouse is not non-white. So, yeah.
The great way to gauge to see how they're going to treat you is just to walk into public with an avocado in your hand and see how the headlines lead. Are you destroying the planet?
Yeah. See whether they go, oh, that's cute, or whether they go, do you know how many people died to bring you that avocado?
Damn.
I'm just looking forward to joining the royal family so I can wear one of those jackets with epaulets. Is that what they're called?
Yes.
Yeah. I look like fucking Bret Hitman Hart or something.
This is a reference I'd get behind.
Aren't they moving to Canada?
Wait.
Isn't that the goal? They're
Wait,
moving
seriously?
to Canada to come be your new rulers.
Royals. Wonderful.
It sounded then like Dan was having his own phone call with somebody else. Yeah, they're moving to Canada. And people are like, I saw the papers today, and they were like, hard Megxit, and they were like, now it's payback time. They're going to have to give the Queen this and give the Queen that, and it's like, yeah, they want to. They're choosing to do this on purpose.
Can anybody look at British tabloids? They've always been bad, don't get me wrong, but lately it's been you look at them and you just instantly want to throw up.
I look at British tabloids with an aerosol can and a lighter.
Are the British tabloids specifically just about people? Because I know, I like the ones in the States that are like, Bat Boy flies again, freedom rings throughout the skies, that kind of stuff.
The British ones, from what I can gather, are I had sex with a ghost and now we're getting married, and it's just some trailer woman from Sussex.
There's a subgenre almost of them that are very much really out there headlines. Other than that, the tabloids are basically, there's a couple of relatively left-wing ones, and then the others are all just super hard right. I guess the equivalent of Fox News, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think what you're thinking more of are magazines like Take a Break, where it's some woman's writing about how she had sex with a trifle and it was a life-changing experience. There was one about a woman who had sex. There was one about a woman who had sex with a trifle. That bit's not false. I need to find out.
Damn.
Yeah.
Now, what is a trifle?
Oh, Occams, you haven't lived until you've had trifle. Chris, explain what a trifle is.
Okay, it's a dessert, and it's it goes jelly, sponge, mince, gravy, mashed potato. Oh no! Wait! That was episode of Friends. It goes jelly, sponge, custard, cream, and that's carefully layered on top of each other, and then within seconds it just becomes a fucking mess.
Sounds like one of those 70s cooking abominations that involve just Jello and everything.
So this lady fucked a dessert. So how did a yeast infection change her life?
Occams, it was anal. Come on, get your facts right.
My favorite is still the one where it was the Satan appears in the debris cloud over the 9/11, the Twin Towers. That was still my favorite one.
I don't know. I don't think the Queen's going anywhere ever.
Mm.
Like the Queen and Vince McMahon, they're just two people who are just going to be in charge for the rest of time.
So are you like automatically King of the Ring now?
That's his official title. He's King of the Ring.
I think, Chris, I really think you got to pull a King Ralph.
Yeah. Were they all wiped out in a photo explosion?
Yeah, the wire was in a puddle, and when they took the picture, they were all electrocuted.
And then John Goodman got to be King Ralph or something.
You know, the one good thing about being a royal is that when you finally do get married, you'll find out just how closely you and your new wife are related.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Their 23andMe is seeing how far apart the eyes are when the kid is born.
And you know, like Brexit's on the horizon, so everything's to play for. So I'm coming in at the right time.
Have they got the £500,000 necessary to pay for the Big Ben to chime at the moment you leave the EU yet?
Someone told me today they got 200,000, but I don't know if that was just a rumor.
Hasn't Boris Johnson? Hasn't he already said he's going to project something onto the clock face instead of having the bongs?
I don't know. Yeah, it's going to cost a fortune to ring. Oh, it stops being funny now. It's going to cost a fortune to ring that fucking bell, because that's apparently the single most important thing this country needs to do now. Because everything only matters until yesterday. Like, forget everything else that was a concern. Now that's the concern, you know. And
you're right. It is getting sad now. So let's go ahead and move on. Sorry. We're actually going to start the week off with a little bit of bad news. At least for the older members of our show. And by older members, I mean Chris. So we've all heard of a midlife crisis. It's that age that men and women, usually men, reach when they realize they're suddenly not young anymore and they take desperate measures to change that. This week there was a study published from the National Bureau of Economic Research that tracked the average age that people reach life's peak misery. So this is something good to know that's coming up. The study looked at trends in 132 countries and found that age has an effect on a person's happiness regardless of their income, marriage, education, and other outside factors. While there are differences between countries on when men and women hit this misery mark in their life, the average age that we all feel the very worst about ourselves is 47 years old. It should be noted that this study has featured a happiness curve, which technically means that you'll be more miserable at 46 than 45 and 45 than 44 and so on. On the upside, there's a curve on the other side of 47, so it's basically all happiness until you die. So that's something to look forward to. I have about a decade to go until a decade and some change before I reach that. But Chris, just think. In a couple years, you're going to look back at the year that you went to hospital to have a knife put in your dick as the good days.
A couple of years? How fucking old do you think?
Wow.
40? Aren't you 40?
I've already had several midlife crises. It's not a problem.
Becoming a member of the royal family was probably, one right there. So
Right. I have midlife crises. Like, people have fucking headaches. It's not a problem. It's like, or like you get the common cold every winter. That's me. Midlife crisis. I had a midlife crisis at 14. It's not a problem.
I think I had my first at the year after I graduated college, and I realized, oh shit, nothing turned out like I thought it would. And then I just went into a panic mode, and yeah, that was a bad 5 months or so.
Right, I guess that's probably a common time for it. Like, I guess you can probably put an average on it, but really, like, I don't. I guess it all comes down to when you feel like your life is quote unquote peaked or whatever. But life doesn't peak. You know what I mean? I've got a friend who was just going through just gone through life, older than me, and I'm being vague here because obviously it's their life and not the world's, but. And they were like just doing their normal thing and getting on with this. And they're older than me and all that. And I assume probably thought, this is as good as it's going to get. And now they make armor on the fucking Star Wars movies, like in a thing that just happened to them over the course of 2 months. And now they work for Hollywood making fucking props for like Star Wars and Edge of Tomorrow and all those movies. And that just happened like bam, out of the blue. So there is no peaking in life, really.
Yeah, and I think far be it from me to make this segment serious, because this segment is never meant to be serious.
Never.
But I think I think over time it's going to be more that people in their 20s are quite unhappy because we're all scrabbling around after we finish university to find some stability, and that just doesn't really come naturally anymore. Like getting a mortgage, for example, unless you have help from parents, it's really hard nowadays to get on the property ladder, and rent in some areas can be quite unstable. Renting, just a general lack of ease about living conditions, lack of ease about job security and benefits. And I feel like people do a lot of stumbling around after university, and then they get to a point where they're happy with where they are, or they manage to find something after trying several jobs or several apartments that just don't work for them. So I feel like over time people are going to get happier as time goes on, because being in your 20s nowadays really sucks.
It does.
Really sucks.
Seriously, I hate it. It's like, God. Man, it's the
As
worst.
someone who is still in their 20s, I can confirm as much. There are years that I look back on where I'm like, man, I should have been doing insert thing like right after high school. Like I genuinely think I wasted a good 6-7 years of my life working just dead end jobs, basically.
Well, that you may feel that way, Dan, but it's the Royal Rumble next week, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, okay, there we go.
Has Becky Lynch's face got fixed in that WWE game yet? Is everything back together after the big New Year's Day catastrophe?
No, they haven't released an update since last year, so
Oh my God.
I've got a feeling that like the developers are probably hard at work now on 2K21 because they have 10 months to get that shit out there. So I don't know.
10 months away and they're already in the death march.
Thanks, CJ, for the chucklesome angle to start the show. Appreciate
Yep. Oh,
just like a repetitive bit. Just let's laugh at how old Chris is when actually he's not that old compared to the rest of us.
All right, let's go ahead and get into talking about games. And Charlotte, why don't you kick us off with one of my favorite franchises that I'm sad is dead, Trauma Center Second Opinion.
Yeah, funny story. I'd set my Wii up, or rather my boyfriend's Wii up, and I was going to start playing Trauma Center Second Opinion, which, if you don't know, is the Wii remake, sort of remaster with added content of Trauma Center Under the Knife, which was on the DS.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking for batteries, and I got a bit distracted, decided to remove a candle that was stuck to a candle holder because I found like a candle in the drawer and thought I'd just do that while I was looking for batteries. And I sliced my thumb open so badly, I was stood there with blood pouring out thinking, should I go to the hospital and get this stitched? So I ended up almost going to the ER while I was gearing up to play Trauma Center this weekend.
Now that's how you get immersed in a video game.
Yeah, that's those 4D experiences that all the big
Yeah.
publishers are talking about.
There's method playing games, seriously.
So-
I'm like the Daniel Day-Lewis of playing Trauma Center.
Hardcore method acting when it comes to playing video games.
Yeah. But I bandaged it up and it's fine now. I'm going to get a gnarly scar, but it's okay. But anyway, back to the game. So it's a good game, but I can't decide whether the controls are bad or it's just the way that like my boyfriend's living room is set out, because I could not get it to register some movements properly. Like the bit where you have to dismantle a bomb and put it back together, you have to like take pegs out of a voltage meter and put them back in, and that requires like backwards and forwards arm movement. And I could not get it to register movement unless I held the remote at a very specific angle, which was very frustrating. I fiddled about with the sensitivity settings for the Wii remote, and it on the lowest sensitivity and on the highest sensitivity, they were both kind of bad for different reasons. I just don't like. Everybody told me this was going to be a really hard game, even on easy, and I was kind of like, yeah, I'm going to play it on easy, it'll be fine. And no, it was really hard. But I'm not sure how much of that is because it's a hard game or because I was fighting against the controls. So I think on balance, having played Under the Knife way back, from what I remember, there is quite a lot of extra content in Second Opinion. but I think I'd still recommend Under the Knife because it's just like it's more intuitive to play it with a stylus, and you're not going to be fighting against Wii remote controls the whole time. But yeah, I pretty much got to the end of it. Like there was the X missions I haven't done, and there's 2 missions at the end where I just gave up because I was having such difficulty finishing it. I thought it's okay, I've had enough of this game. I can put it down now. But yeah, I clocked up about 7 hours this weekend, and it was a good game. But you know, you have to factor in difficulties with the controls. So if you can pick it up cheap, maybe give it a go. But you're not missing out if you've already played Under the Knife, in my opinion.
Yeah, from my experience, one, that game does have ridiculous difficulty spikes, and the bomb segment you mentioned is just one of those. And the controls, I found them reliable most of the time, but then when they weren't, they really weren't, and it really affected how I did in the game. I agree with you. Under the Knife for the DS is, I think, the better version of it. It is more difficult, but I think the controls are better with it. But New Blood, Under the Knife 2, and Trauma Teen, oh god, those 3 are, I think, are leagues ahead of anything that they had in the first game, and it's somewhat remake.
Yeah, New Blood should be arriving next week. I actually got a message from the eBay seller saying that he accidentally didn't put something on and it bounced back to him. So I should be receiving New Blood next week. I'm going to be in Scotland next weekend. By the way, I'm not going to be on Podtoid next weekend. I'm going to be in Scotland. So I'll not be able to play it before then. But I should be able to play it the week after, and then I can let everybody know what New Blood's like.
Now, Europe never got Trauma Team, did they? Did it?
No, and I had a little talk with somebody about this, and somebody was advising me to play Trauma Team, but then somebody else reminded me that the Wii is region locked. So if we wanted to play it, we'd have to buy the game, which is very expensive over here, and either mod the Wii or buy a new Wii. So.
And I think Under the Knife 2 is the same, that it didn't release over there, but at least the DS is not region locked, so you could, if you wanted to, play that one. Do you have that one?
No, that's not super cheap either. I think it goes for like you can. I picked up Second Opinion for €6 or something, but like Under the Knife 2 is 20 or 30, but it's still reasonable for what you're getting. I'm guessing, so I'll probably pick that up at some point as well.
No, it's good. I love that series. I miss that series. I was really hoping that Atlus would have at least attempted it on the Wii U, because I think that would have been the perfect platform to have that series on, especially when you consider the touch controls of the Wii U gamepad. I'm almost irate that they didn't, but then now, you know, the series is pretty much dead, so I don't know if we'll ever get another one.
Yeah, I just, one of the highlights from Second Opinion was because I played Under the Knife before I knew Atlus and the other stuff that they were doing, I didn't take time to appreciate the music. And the music for Second Opinion, it's nothing spectacular on its own, but it sounds exactly like Digital Devil Saga or Nocturne music. There's very clear similarities between all the scores, and it's really great to hear. It really brings back good memories.
I do like that. Charlotte, you started by saying you were playing Trauma Center, and then CJ, you mentioned it as well, and both of you resulted to talking about like a bomb defusal. And in my head, I was like, I thought it was like a hospital sim, and you both like, so anyway, I'm taking the wires out of this bomb, and I'm like, what fucking hospital's this? ER.
It's the hospital from Grey's Anatomy, duh.
Oh, that episode of Grey's Anatomy destroyed me. And the guy who got blown up.
It destroyed you, but mostly him.
I was devastated, but not as devastated as Kyle Chandler's body when that bomb blew up.
Spoilers, CJ. It's been 11 years or something.
I was reading that one of the guys, I don't know who he plays on the show because I haven't watched it in a decade, but like he's been on there since the beginning, and he's just leaving now, and I'm shocked that this show, which is going into like its 15th or 16th or 17th season, still has people who were on the original episode in the original season. There's like still 3 actors who are still with that show, and I just think, God damn, that is a long time to be on one show. I don't know how they or all of those Law and Order people do it.
I mean, McDreamy and McSteamy are both dead now. That show has no reason to exist anymore now that Derek Shepherd's gone.
That is true. Without Doctor, is it Dr. Sloan? Was that it, Mark Sloan?
Yeah, he was objectively the nicer one, I've got to say.
Objectively the hotter one.
I thought
Yeah.
Dr. Sloan was Dick Van Dyke in Diagnosis Murder. Is he a Dick? Even though Dr. Sloan as well. I'm pretty sure he is.
I mean, Dick Van Dyke's not bad either.
Just another one of those classic current references from Chris.
Yeah, the crossover with our Grey's Anatomy audience, CJ. Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to me. This week, I've been playing, or actually just for the last 2 days mostly, I've been playing a game for iOS called Pascals. I think it's Pascals. Pascals Wager. That's your boyfriend's name, right, Charlotte?
Yes.
Pascal? Yeah. This game is not about him, obviously. This was showcased at a iOS event last year. It is a Dark Souls, Demon Souls clone for iOS. I don't know who the developer is. It just released though, and it does use the controllers for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. So obviously that's how I've been playing it. And it's a derivative, all right. There are just a few things I want to touch on with this game. First of all, there is a sanity meter that as you go through combat, you slowly lose your sanity unless you drink like this elixir that's supposed to restore your sanity. Which, okay, that's an annoying element to have in this game, but whatever. The problem is that when you reach the boss battles, which are undoubtedly the most difficult parts of these games, as evident by where it takes its inspiration from. When you lose your sanity, the bosses go into a freak out mode, and I don't know why they're going into the freak out mode when you're the one losing your sanity, but sure, whatever. And their energy gets replenished, and then all of their attacks become ridiculously long range and powerful. And fucking hell, I died maybe 35 times taking on the opening boss of this game, just because every time I whittled down his health down to, like maybe 1 or 2 hits would kill him, I'd lose my sanity, and then his energy would fill back up and he'd be throwing rocks at me from across the stage. So I was just like, fuck.
So when you lose your sanity, what actually happens?
There's for the boss scenes, because I've never lost my sanity in any other part of the game because it's just not going to happen. Because it's so easy. There's like a little cutscene, and you see the boss. It's essentially the boss takes on their second form. Okay. I think for the first one, like a bright shining red light replaced its face or something like that. And then their attacks, they have greater range, they have greater speed, and they're far more damaging than their regular attacks. And you can dodge and you can block, but neither of them work that well when a boss is in this mode when you lose your sanity. So the goal is to keep downing those elixirs as you're fighting this boss to make sure you don't lose your sanity. The problem is that when you die and you go back to the last checkpoint, all of the stuff that you used, at least I think when you run out of money to pay the fine for dying, all of the stuff you lose, you don't get back. So I've had to go back down into the level, kill a bunch of enemies, grind for ingredients to potions to make these elixirs so I don't lose my sanity. And I think I had to do that about 5 times before I was finally able to down this fucking first boss of this game. And god damn, if I'm going to struggle there, I don't know what the rest of the game is going to hold for me. Although the second area is a little more challenging than the first area. It's fun to play. I don't think the combat is all that great when you're not fighting a boss. It's pretty plain and boring. The story and the setting is really derivative. But the one other thing I want to touch on is the voice acting for this game is so goddamn bad. You have what are clearly men trying to do the voices of old women, and it sounds like, "Oh no, what am I going to do? Somebody help me." And it's just like, how can I take this seriously?
Hey,
I don't
CJ,
know.
Yes.
CJ, real quick, I need to go change my pants real quick. I'll be right back.
I'm looking for my son, Jerry. Really? Jerry? Jerry was the best name you could come up with for this medieval set game? What's going to happen in level 2? Do I have to find Elaine and then Kramer and then George? What? Jerry?
And what is the deal with sanity?
But yeah, so anytime I feel this game is taking itself way too seriously, dialogue starts and I just start laughing again because it's just so bad. It's really bad. And the main protagonist, it sounds like a guy with a weak voice trying to do a strong voice. Well, then I think I should go to there and combat them. And it's like, God damn it.
It sounds like CJ's just trying to make an audition tape and pass it off as a podcast.
I'm as soon as Pascal's Wager 2 gets approved, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be the main protagonist, and I'm going to talk like this because this is how people in that game talk. Jerry, where's Jerry? All right, let's go ahead and move on. Occams, I hope you're back from putting on your new pants because you're going to talk about Highway to Hell. And I don't know why I had to say it like that.
It's a good lead in. I like it. All right, so video games are bullshit. So I watched a movie this week. It's called Highway to Hell. Let me read you the tagline. First off, it's Highway to Hell tagline, where the toll is your soul. And like I guess the little I don't know, something like it's subtitle for it thing is, if there's one thing worse than dying and going to hell, it's not dying and going to hell. Guys, we can punch that up a little bit more.
It's like, all right. Neither of those sounds particularly like the best choice, to be honest.
No,
I'll take either, thanks.
I feel like they were the first choice, probably the only choice. So Highway to Hell is a 1992 horror comedy. It's actually a spoof on Orpheus, which I didn't really think about until later, which is funny. Chad Lowe,
always top quality project with Chad Lowe's involved.
The brother of Rob Lowe, and a pre-Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Christy Swanson, stars a teenage couple who are eloping to Las Vegas. And in an effort to avoid the police, who think they're looking for them for some reason, they take desert back roads like you do. Mm-hmm. And after being warned by the requisite creepy old man at the last stop gas station to... Yeah, I know. To not fall asleep before the second Joshua tree, which is just delightfully nonsensical, is like cursed roads go. Like, watch out for the second Joshua tree. I'm like, I was thinking, what the fuck is a Joshua tree? I know it's a U2 album, but I don't know what it's okay. Of course, they fall asleep while driving before the second Joshua tree, and the Hell Cop, his actual name in the movie is Hell Cop, shows up and steals Buffy away to hell. I know, tough gig. One of my favorite things, by the way, his handcuffs were actually like severed hands, were connected at the stumps by a length of chain, which was the same toy they made when Police Academy was a cartoon series for a very brief time. So that was fun. So Chad Lowe goes back to the old man and is like, what the fuck just happened? Buffy's been taken. And old man explains that, well, the highway is cursed and that Hell Cop shows up sometimes and steals women away to be Satan's brides. He tells him the same thing happened to his beloved 50 years earlier. And says, well, I'm going to help you get your Buffy back. So we're going to do that. You're going to need a better car because they were driving a Ford Pinto. And you're going to need a gun. So he gives them like a pristine, like 1930s gangster car. I'm sure those have a name. And then this is my favorite thing. He gives them a sawed-off shotgun that for some reason has been painted silver and has seashells on it, which I just loved. It apparently that the seashells were like, oh, my 50 years now gone girlfriend used to like to decorate stuff at the house. So she put seashells on a sawed-off shotgun, which I respect the aesthetic. It's like beach casual, but also I'm a drug dealer, so I dig it. So Chad Lowe is able to finally get to hell, straight up just the California desert, by the way. Mm-hmm. And the movie, the way it works out, it's just a series of like really fun set pieces. Like the first place he goes to after getting to hell is a diner, in which Ben Stiller plays a psychotic fry cook. A very young Ben Stiller. And later he plays Attila the Hun. Just let that one sink in for a minute. So in the diner, it's just filled with dead cops, and they're different, like various stages of decay. So there's like clearly, you know how in like the zombie movies, they'll have like 3 zombies that look really fucked up, and you can tell they're like that's where all the makeup budget went. And then they're like the guys painted gray who were supposed to like brrr, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's how the diner was. And Jerry Stiller, Ben's dad, is the cop who actually talks, which was fun. And then also just rounding out the Stiller triumvirate, Amy Stiller, Ben's sister, plays Cleopatra in this movie. This movie felt like if you distilled the 1990s like B movie 90s cinema into like a thick paste and like just covered your eyes in it. That's what this movie felt like to me. It reminded me an awful lot of another movie called The Adventures of Ford Fairlane, which was supposed to be this big like springboard action film for Andrew Dice Clay. Yeah. And it's a movie I unironically, unabashedly adore for how stupid and cheesy. Wayne Newton is the bad guy in that movie. And I can't recommend it enough to you. It is so ridiculous. There's just so much stupid shit. Oh my god, I adored this movie. And Chad Lowe goes. I have a cat coming in. Sorry. Chad Lowe goes on a couple of adventures through hell. Again, just set pieces, and with little bits of like, here's the California desert. Gilbert Gottfried plays Hitler.
Oh, I want to see that now.
If you ever needed a reason to see a movie, Gilbert fucking Gottfried plays Hitler. It's so great. So stupid. Surprisingly competent chase scenes. Like whenever the Hellcop shows up and he's like, I've got to run away from the Hellcop or I'm chasing the Hellcop. Like halfway decent. You could really see where Mad Max Fury Road got its inspiration. This movie felt a hell of a lot like a video game. Like this easily could have been a point and click adventure LucasArts put out back when they were doing stuff like that.
Right.
Really, really, really easy to do. Every set, every scene had its own personality and environment and feel to it. It was so wonderful. Great monster makeup and equally terrible acting. It was incredibly charming, and it made me really sad for what happened to Christy Swanson.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah.
First of all, Chad Lowe is like the dictionary definition of white mediocrity. Like there is no reason he should be famous whatsoever, aside from the fact that he has a very famous brother. But I have to ask, at the end of the movie, when he undoubtedly saved Christy Swanson, did she thank him or did she not thank him, preparing him for what it would be like to be married to Hilary Swank when she won the Oscar?
You know, the sad thing is, I remember when she won the Oscar and she kissed him like in the seat, and I went, "Oh shit, she's married to the boy who could fly," and that wasn't him at all. That was a different person I'd forgotten existed. Yeah, it's a stupid movie. It's fun. It's on Amazon Prime, and I highly recommend it. It is got just charm oozing out your asshole. It's just great, man. It's so much fun. Yeah, I loved it, adored it. I'm gonna buy it on Blu-ray when we get off the podcast.
Sounds like a plan. Also, I see that the person who played Hellcop is C.J. Graham, who once played Jason Voorhees.
Yeah, in the best Friday the 13th film, Part 6, Jason Lives.
That seems to be
spoiler.
Yeah, maybe that was Jason's Moonlight gig was for Hellcop. He was the Hellcop.
Spoiler.
Another
spoiler. It's not Scooby Doo. They don't take Jason's mask off at the end and reveal like that it's like an oil billionaire underneath. He's like an undead dude.
No, it's Abe Vigoda on bath salts.
So it looks like it was not filmed in California, because I was wondering if it was like filmed anywhere where I live, but it looks like it was all done in Arizona.
Sure.
So,
I mean, that's the exact same place to me. I've never been to either. Sure.
Well, I'm just saying we have a lot of Joshua trees here, so I just
okay.
That's why I was
still
curious.
Don't know what,
yeah.
Still no clue what a Joshua tree is.
It's a YouTube album.
There
YouTube.
You go.
Damn it, YouTube. God damn it.
Oh man.
All right, let's go ahead and wrap this up with Dan. Dan, you're the only one here playing a big new game, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. I don't know how to say it. I don't watch the show.
Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. Literally a big game. It's it's the first Dragon Ball RPG in a long, long while, unless you count Dragon Ball Online. But according to the developers, it's like an 80-hour game if you do everything.
Okay.
In terms of side quests and all that kind of content. And it covers pretty much the entirety of Dragon Ball Z, from the Sand Saga all the way to the Buu Saga. So that's like everything. The Android Saga, Frieza, Cell, all of it. Including some filler content, like the driving school and getting a driving license and all that. I was a big fan of that. I'm glad that made it into the game, so you can have a little race against Piccolo with Goku. It's good shit. But overall, the gameplay of it, to those listening that have played Dragon Ball games, it plays kind of like a dumbed-down Tenkaichi 3 and Raging Blast 2, like those over-the-top kind of like, not necessarily like fighting games, but like arena-style fighting games, I guess I would put that. Like, I don't know how to even describe those kind of fighting games, really. Anime-ass fighting games.
Yeah, basically. That would probably be the best way, either arena-style or anime-ass. And that seems to be the direction that the Dragon Ball franchise has been going since those
up until like Fighters games.
Yeah.
But and it's kind of a dumbed down version of that. You have a sub menu for special attacks for like your Kamehameha and Spirit Bomb and all that kind of stuff. And just now with RPG mechanics, so you see numbers now, levels take like your actual level and your enemy level takes into consideration how much damage you're doing or how much damage you're receiving, things like that. There's big, massive areas to explore. Like that's kind of like one of the key selling points of this game is like you can explore giant areas of the game, from everything from Namek to even things like the Kame House and the little island, and talk to Master Roshi and stuff. Even as a side quest that involves finding like an adult magazine buried in the sand somewhere, because the turtle is like, you need some fucking self-control, man. And I wish I could side with the turtle on this and bury the magazine somewhere else, but I couldn't, so. Wouldn't let me roleplay properly. Very upset about that.
Gotcha.
And, there's even little fun, like, side activities, like I said, racing and driving around in a car, even though you can fly at the speed of whatever the fuck. And, stuff like tackling the Red Ribbon Army and their dumb little towers. There's plenty of fun little Dragon Ball references in this game, which I'm a big fan of. Because Dragon Ball never gets enough attention, in my opinion. It's always Z or Super, and the over-the-top nonsense. I'm more of a Dragon Ball fan. I like my humor and the charm of Dragon Ball way over Z and GT and Super any day, but that's just me.
How is the world? Does it feel empty?
Yeah, for the most part, it feels empty. Like the big city areas have tons of little NPCs walking around and vehicles everywhere, but for the most part, it's pretty empty. You fly around collecting little orbs that help towards your skill tree. So there's like these little multicolored orbs like all over the fucking map that you can fly around and gather if you want, but it's kind of mind-numbing. Like, honestly, this is a game, despite it being like an 80-hour game, this is a game that I would only recommend playing in short bursts of maybe like a few hours at most each day, because it does get a little repetitive constantly, because the combat doesn't really progress much. It's from the Science Saga all the way to the Buu Saga. For the most part, the combat is going to be the same thing.
Gotcha.
And that goes for much of the open world stuff as well. I should also mention there's tons of like filler content and new filler content, and like that they show different perspectives that you didn't see in the anime and stuff, like Yamcha's bullshit in general and fucking finding nudie magazines for Master Roshi. It goes places. It's a game.
There's your quote for the front cover. It's
Yes.
a game, Dan Roma.
I mean, honestly, like I have played so many Dragon Ball games. Like that's kind of the thing. It's a little mind-numbing to me, because I've played Dragon Ball Z Budokai 1 through 3. I played Tenkaichi 1 through 3. I played Dragon Ball Raging Blast 1 and 2. I played at Xenoverse 1 and 2. So now that I'm playing this, I'm like, yeah, it's a Dragon Ball game now with RPG mechanics. Like I have heard the Z story time and time again, so it's a little hard for me to be uplifting about this and talk about really anything new. There's not really anything new here.
I wonder if it'd be better received if they'd have gone with like do some GT stuff and then go into the Super Dragon Ball or whatever's happening
there's
now.
Season pass, so like I guarantee you that they're gonna, at least in the DLC, they're gonna tackle at least Super. I doubt GT will ever get any like fanfare in future games going forward. I feel like they're trying to bury GT long and deep. Be like, no, GT never happened. Super's the real story now.
Oh man, see, I liked old GT. It was like it reminded
GT
me
too, honestly.
It reminded me of how you had like Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Z, and there's like original Transformers, old school designs. You got that boombox motherfucker. You got like the thing that turns into a gun,
a
and then you got like
story of looking for Dragon Balls now in space. I was a big fan of it.
And then you have the Beast Wars, where it's like it's Transformers, but shit's like everything's chrome and shit, and they got weird voices running around. There's a lot more drama. It's just different, but it's fun, and I like some GT.
Yeah.
Also,
and, they also had an Android Saga 2.0.
And I got to give a shout out to Dragon Ball as always, because it was one of the first times I ever saw like I guess it was Rule 34 porn.
Oh boy.
I was very memorable because Goku, like when he was really horny, his dick went Super Saiyan, so his dick was like covered in like the same light that he gets with like his blonde hair and like power aura, but his cock had that. And I to this day I would put that on a t-shirt in a heartbeat if I could find that image again.
Okay, you heard that, audience. Find that image for Occams, and he will put it on a t-shirt.
And I'll wear it to your grandmother's funeral.
You are listening to Podtoid.
Time for dance game.
Yes.
Yes. Let's dive into that.
Wait, hold on. That's all I got for a theme song for you.
Okay.
It was between that
Welcome
or
to the game.
So it was
Jesus
one of those two.
Christ. Welcome to what year it was written. So far, our leader in total wins is Charlotte with 2 victories so far.
Hell yeah.
But much like Super Saiyan Dicks, we're going into a very spicy topic. This comes from a thread titled Sexism, Get Real. Whoever started this crap about sexism in games should be drawn out into the street and have a bullet put in their head. This guy goes places. What's the big deal about this topic? Did someone knucklehead want to see how many responses you get to the subject? If you want to go into some discussions that mean something, type about how NEC had to bail out from the TG16, or how this grammar is something, or how big a putz of Nintendo of America is. These are the kind of postings that do nothing but clutter the network up and are painted over. Sexism in the real world can be taken seriously, but in a video game, all I can say to this individual is that no planet would lose its orbit underestimating your stupidity. P.S. If you want a real 16-bit system, buy a Genesis. So I asked you guys, what year was it written?
I'm going to go super current and say 2017.
Okay, I'm going to go completely the opposite direction and go 1993. No, 1982.
I was going to go 1992. But
You can take 92 and I'll take 93 again.
No. 1990.
Dan, is there any rules against people choosing the same date?
I was thinking about that just now. I don't think there should be. I think it should be if someone wants to pick the same year, I think that's fine. But
no, I have my
there's going to be
reasons for
3 of these, so this is only the first one. There's
Okay.
2 more coming up.
Right, no, I have my reasons for picking 1990, so I'll stick with 1990.
Price is Right rules 98. No, 89, whatever.
The winner of this round is Moyes with 92. Charlotte, you could have had it if you just stuck to it. But anyways, this was a post from Usenet, January 26, 1992.
That grammar.
Hey, I mean, there was a big hint with PS, if you want a real 16-bit system, buy Genesis. So when you went 2017, I was like, wait, what? But anyways, the next one. Titled, The Last Bastion of Masculinity. See, we're going down a terrible road right now. In the 1950s, people were told to strive to be better and not whine about every damn thing. We were told adversity creates champions. Hard work will build character. That's why video games appeal more to men. It's literally on the Hold on. It's literally on the last bastions of masculinity. I'm sure he meant one, but he just put on here, so OM. But anyways, what year was it written?
God, the 1300s? What kind of fucking bullshit thinking is that?
This is a wild card.
I'm gonna go 2019. I think I remember that. There's been so many posts like that in fucking the last 20 years, but that sounds too familiar. Like people were complaining about it recently. So I'm gonna go 2019.
I'm gonna go 2005.
1997.
Price is Right rules 96.
The winner of this round is Moyes.
What?
Last year, December 29th, 2019, thanks to Shitty Gamertates on Twitter.
Ah,
That was
that's
3
probably where I
weeks
saw
ago.
it.
Yeah, people are still just as fucking stupid as they were in 1992. Crazy.
Because I follow shitty gamer takes, I think, so that's probably what it is. Yeah.
I might have to avoid that then going forward, even giving an edge here to Moyes. So Moyes has it. He has this game, but this is the final question of the game. The future of gaming systems. Does anyone think there will be a virtual reality home entertainment system released in the next 10 to 15 years? If so, what do you think it will be like? The thread then continued on with an interesting reply. Interstated question. I think something also interesting would be HDTV gaming. Right now, the highest resolution console is 640 by 480. Arcade games are going up to 800 by 600, but imagine 3K by 1K crystal clear images. See, now resolution seems to be doubling horizontal resolution every generation, and each generation is about 6 years. I suppose in 6 more years we'll have HD TV quality. Then another 6 years doubling that, because it needs to create 2 images, one for each eye. So insert year is my projection. I'll be 33 by then. Scary thought. So I asked
I'm
you.
going to go with 1998.
What year was it written? 98, okay. And you guys?
2001.
I think the tale implies that virtual reality is something that's happening, and the guy's like, imagine if we have this in our house. So I'm going to go like 1993, which was kind of when virtual reality had first started appearing in like shopping malls and stuff like that.
The Price is Right rules 92.
Nobody got that one right. The answer was May 4th, 97. He's also pretty scary accurate about his resolution predictions, but off by like a good solid years when it comes to a legitimate VR game. But I thought that was an interesting post as he went into like the resolution aspect of things, including like the left and right eye. He was like scary accurate about the resolution stuff.
So, Occam, someday your Price is Right rules will pay off.
Someday, yeah. Someday he'll get it.
Hey,
Funny
it's
enough,
how I got-
Charlotte had it like last round when she said 97, so I thought that was interesting. And then prior to that, she said 92. I was like, she's off by, but on the wrong topic. But anyways, Moyes takes this game. Punch
Is that
in
you
the number.
updating the score?
Oh yeah, I am keeping track of this.
Like live score updates.
Exactly.
All right, thanks, Dan.
This is Podtoid.
Let's go ahead and get into the news real quick. That's right, it's still that soundbite. A lot happened this week, and unfortunately we can't get to it all. There were some big stories, the biggest of which has to be that every game you wanted to play this spring has been delayed. It's Delay-mageddon, if you will, as Final Fantasy VII Remake, Cyberpunk 2077, Iron Man VR, and Marvel's The Avengers from Square Enix have all been announced that they will miss their previous release dates. The delays for Final Fantasy VII Remake and Iron Man VR are relatively short, as they will now launch in April and May respectively. As for Avengers and Cyberpunk, those are being pushed back to September. And Cyberpunk's multiplayer mode, which was already scheduled to arrive after the game's launch, now won't be ready until around 2022. It never really feels good to announce a delay, and I don't know what is or isn't complete with these games. But looking at everything that's going to be pushed back, I think that, aside from what we know now about how delays work and what kind of toll it takes on the employees who have to go from permanent crunch, or again, as they call it, the death march, like Avengers has to be the one that's going to benefit greatest out of this, right? Because aside from Kamala Khan being one of the main characters, I haven't seen anyone at all excited about playing this game.
You said Kamala Khan, and I was thinking Kamala Harris.
Me too.
Sorry, which game? The Avengers game?
Oh man.
Well, she's not running for president anymore, so she needs to do something in her spare time. Maybe she'll reunite the Avengers.
There we go.
Yeah.
But I'd like to imagine they're all delayed as they realized they were all competing with Animal Crossing. They're like, oh shit, we can't. They got new updated graphics. Mr. Rossetti is jobless. Imagine the plot line in that. We gotta avoid this.
I swear, like I said this, I think on Twitter earlier on this week. I think Tom Nook has been doing some dealings behind the scenes, and he's been, calling in favors.
He's finally using all those bells we've been paying him for the past 2 decades.
Yeah, to
bribing the fuck out of everybody.
Tell CG Projekt Red to fuck off.
Tom Nook's such a fucking lever. Like, I can't.
Tom Nook is gammon.
Hell yeah. Realistically, though, I'm actually a little bit happy that Cyberpunk got delayed, as it gives me time to save up for computer parts and build a half-decent computer. Because the original plan was buying it on PlayStation 4, and I have a standard PS4, so I imagine I was getting like the bottom of the barrel experience when it comes to that. So
probably
I'm happy I could save up some money and get a decent computer going before then, and then play it at hopefully the best settings and whatnot.
It's probably best to do it that way because then you're faced with the situation of buying it for PlayStation 4 and then buying the inevitable PlayStation 5 upgraded version. So you might as well
they
just
haven't talked about that, and like with talk of like backwards compatibility, I am extra curious how those will compare between like people playing the PS4 versions on their PS5s and like the PS5 versions, comparing and contrasting them.
Well, I imagine, like, my thought process is that maybe it's going to be something like what they did with Final Fantasy 15 on PC, where they had, the DLC pack that was like super high resolution graphics that you could download. You didn't necessarily have to play.
Oh yeah, that'll probably be it. It'll probably be like, hey, do you want the PC graphics on your console?
Yeah.
Download this 80 gig patch for whatever amount of money.
So like you could buy the PlayStation 5 version, it would already have it. Or if you bought the PlayStation 4 version, you could just buy this DLC when you play it on PlayStation 5.
God, that's probably what it's going to be, isn't it?
Probably. But yeah, as I said, when all these announcements were made of delays, it's just more time for Animal Crossing and Doom Eternal. I guess I'll also play that. He has a sword now, so
that looks like fun. I loved that first Doom, but the one they made that made you remember what it was like to play Doom when I was a kid.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's very good, very good.
Yeah.
Going from ripping and tearing to collecting bugs sounds great to me, honestly.
Yeah, I need a violent respite between all of the soothing gameplay of Animal Crossing instead of the other way around. So, after spending 25 hours straight building my town, I'll need like an hour of just demon killing to kind of just shake things up before I get back into bug collecting and looking for fossils. Anyways, our next story, after some much anticipation and a few MacGuffins, we finally know who the last DLC character will be for the Fighter's Pass for Smash, and hold on to your hats because it's a Fire Emblem character.
Justice for Waluigi!
There's still no Eggman yet, and I'm very upset.
Yeah, I don't know what I don't know what more can be said about this that hasn't already been said. It's another Fire Emblem character. People, don't be surprised about this because Fire Emblem and Pokemon are the only two franchises Nintendo have that introduce new characters. So yeah, we're going to keep seeing people from these games showing up. And the fan base's insistence that nothing ever be cut ever just means it's going to be more and more and more Fire Emblem characters and more Pokemon going on.
Well, it's like it's not the characters, the Byleths from Three Houses, right?
Yeah.
Which came out last year, which debuted last year, and like the Mortal Kombat guest characters are Terminator from the Terminator movie came out last year, and Joker, and a Joker movie came out last year. It's like it's really simple why this stuff gets picked.
Right.
It's current, and it might convince you to spend money on another product that features that character.
And I think that's such a shame for Smash because I don't think it needs it.
No, I agree.
Fire Emblem didn't need a boost. I think Smash is a chance. I know they have the next DLC pack and another 6 characters.
6 characters
like
over 2 years. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a chance to showcase. It's a love letter to Nintendo. It's a love letter to fans. It's a chance to showcase Nintendo's history. And I throw in another goddamn Fire Emblem character, and I completely agree with Chris about why it's there and all. It feels like a wasted opportunity, and I'm glad there's 6 more. I'm hopeful. I have my personal picks. All 3 of the deities from Eternal Darkness should be in. That's just my opinion, but we'll see. But
yeah, I mean, it would be nice for them to go back and do what they did for Ice Climbers, which here is a game that back in 2001 when Melee came out. That's a game that most Nintendo fans didn't even know about because it was never really that big on the NES, and it never really transcended past the 8-bit generation to maintain popularity in the same way as something like Kid Icarus did. But so it would be nice to see them go back into those one-off Nintendo games that we got 20 years ago, like Eternal Darkness, or I don't know, Mole Mania, and just see what they can pluck from there. I'd much rather have that over Byleth. But mostly I'm hoping that of these next 6 DLC characters, we get some villains, because it's just been heroes. Literally a character named Hero amongst other heroes.
Yeah, like Dr. Robotnik.
My personal pick is they've done Banjo Kazooie, now they should do Conker.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah.
Not going to happen because Smash is supposed to be family friendly, but
hey, if Bayonetta can get in.
I think my favorite thing out of all of this was the Nintendo store or whatever in New York, how they have kind of those like live reactions.
Yeah.
Somebody did like a comparison of the last announcement to this announcement. It was just like mild clapping. So I was a big fan of that.
Well, I mean, the last announcement was Terry. And then before that was Banjo Kazooie, and then before that was Hero, and then before that was Joker.
Yeah, the comparison was the Banjo one. The crowd just like blew up, and then when it was this bailiff character, whatever, they were just kind of they clapped a little bit. That was about it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I'd like to see is some representation from Super Mario Brothers 2. Like get Birdo in there, or get Wart.
Yeah.
Well, I know that the one name that I'm seeing a lot now that they've announced a second DLC pass is Gino from Super Mario RPG, and I mean, goddamn, how is that not possible? Just how has that not happened yet? Given how much people fucking love that game and love that character, give us Gino, give us Malo, like give us both of them.
Hey, I'll say this: Mr. Rossetti's out of a job. Let's give him one. It's Smash.
All right, finally, real quick, just something I saw. Giant spiders are returning in the Resident Evil 3 remake. So, yeah, you have fun with that, people.
God, that was the best thing when you enter a room and you can't see him, but you hear that like heavy,
bass,
like it's like
kind of
somebody wrapped a bowling ball in a blanket and like dropped it on the floor. Oh, love it.
I went looking for this story to see if I could find more information about it, but it was literally just a sentence, and so that's all I could provide. But like, it was just nothing but pictures of the giant spiders from the Resident Evil remake that was on the GameCube, and god damn, those things were huge, and fuck, I am not looking forward to seeing what they look like on a PlayStation 4. That's all I can say.
And like, who knows how it's going to debut in that game? Like, is it just going to be sitting around a corner and you're just going to turn a corner and it's there? Or is it just going to fucking hang down in front of you while you're walking down a corridor or something? Like,
it's going to be sat in an armchair. Oh, sorry, go on. It's going to be sat in an armchair reading the Daily Mail.
Hell yeah.
Just one of it, two of its arms holding the paper, one holding a thing of scotch, one holding a cigar.
For some reason, I'm picturing it wearing a monocle, even though it's got 8 eyes. But I can be just one of them's got a monocle on. And you turn the corner and it's just like, CJ, so good to see you again. Yeah.
Have a seat.
All right, we are just about out of time. But before we go, Occams, do we have a community shout out this week?
We do. Community shout out to Trigger Pig King, which is a name I adore just saying over and over again, as if it becomes a mantra in my heart. Trigger Pig King, pretty much every day posts a drawing that they do. And I've really enjoyed seeing that kind of evolution of their art. It's really cool stuff to look at. I love anytime anyone in the community posts their art, anything they're creating. But Trigger Pig King very consistently just posts really awesome art on a daily basis, and it makes me smile when I see it. So shout out to Trigger Pig King. Trigger Pig King. Trigger Pig King, Manchurian Candidate, Trigger Pig King.
I just want to point out that Trigger Pig King, their Twitter handle is Trigger Pig Art, and they did our banner for our Podtoid Twitter account.
Yep, excellent banner.
Yep. So love it. Great shout out, great community. Love seeing the artwork, just like you said. But that is it. So on behalf of Charlotte, Dan, Chris, Occams, and myself, thank you for listening to this episode of Podtoid, and don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Podbean, or the Destructoid YouTube channel.